Welcome to this retrospective slash review for the game Nights into Dreams. And in this particular video, there might be a little more retrospective from me than in some of my normal videos, because this game is actually fairly special for me, because this is one of the games way back in the day that when I saw it, and probably Panzer Dragoon as well, made me want to buy my first console that I ever purchased for myself. And it was also my first and only Sega console that I had. And so, yeah, I bought a Sega Saturn, and I had the 3D controller as well. So the first controller with an analog stick from a console perspective. So a lot of first for me here when it comes to the game Nights. So yeah, there's quite a bit of nostalgia in this game for me, even though this obviously isn't the Sega Saturn version of the game. This is the version that came out on Steam, and it was also available on this particular version was available, I believe, on PlayStation and Xbox as well, up until roughly about a month ago when Sega made the unfortunate decision to delist it along with a whole bunch of other games. But as you'll see in the background here, I'm going to have some gameplay footage going that I recorded. And just for a little visual comparison, like when I did my playthrough, I did the brand new Dreams game or version of the game. And so I decided let's fire up the uh, Sega Saturn Nights and see what it looks like in comparison purposes. So especially for the first two levels here, you'll get to see the Sega Saturn visuals compared to the brand new Dreams visuals. So that's a nice little thing to look at, in my opinion. Now, it wasn't just the graphics that were different. The actual music is different amongst the two versions as well. So I found that kind of interesting. But anyway, without further ado, let me just go ahead and jump into my thoughts, and we'll just kind of go from there. So like I said, I do have a bit of history with this game, and I think even to this day, this game is still very good. But, you know, some of my criticisms of the game that I had even back in the day pretty much still, you know, are valid today. But at its basic level, I still think that the graphics for this game and the gameplay and the control still hold up very well. It's a very simple game from a control perspective. I mean, you just have the one analog stick and the one button control to do your spin dash, basically. So it's a simple game to play from a control perspective, but not necessarily from a mastery perspective. So getting through the levels and beating the game, one of the biggest criticisms is it's very simple. Like, you can get through a single playthrough for either Claris or Elliot probably in about an hour, maybe a little less. And like for me, like with Claris, I beat it with her in less than an hour. So that's pretty good. And it didn't take me that much more time to beat the game with Elliot either. So it's definitely not a difficult game. And that was basically one of my biggest complaints with the game when I had it originally on the Sega Saturn. Was like I was able to beat it very quickly. Now, from a achievement perspective on Steam, there are not a lot of achievements. There are 13 of them, which is still a pretty decent number. But of those 13 achievements, I've already gotten, 10 of them. The hardest one to get will obviously be the one where you have to get an A rank in every level, and that's going to be something that will require a little more skill and a little more practice on my part to get. And that could, from that perspective, that will definitely increase the playtime of the game for sure, because otherwise this game is pretty much over and done with already as far as I'm concerned, because I've done everything in it. But I'm going to still, on my own time, try to knock out the rest of the achievements because I'm a masochist. So yeah, masochist, that's correct. Not sadist, masochist. But anyway, yeah, from graphics, control, sound, everything still holds up even to this day, in my humble opinion. I just think it's a very good game. It's very unique in its play style as well back in the day. Now, I had never played any Sonic game before, but now that I have come back and played Sonic games, I can definitely see that this one is, you know, substantially less content, all things considered, for what you're getting. And that's really the biggest complaint, I think, for this game is it's just very short. And it definitely too short. I wish there was more to it from a content perspective. Yes, it's easy. It's very easy as well. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I do like occasionally being able to open up or break out a very easy game. I mean, a lot of the Kirby games come to mind as being pretty easy games as well, but they're fun, and that's what this game is. It's a fun game, and that's really a good thing. If you just want a fun, easy game, then you have that with something like this. But yeah, I mean, those are the biggest complaints, and I think that they still hold up. But for me, you know, there is a bit of nostalgia for this game. Honestly, I can't say that there isn't. Um, it's cute, and actually, there is one thing I'd like to highlight, which is a bit of an interesting design decision behind this game. So, you know how you can see here, you have the Sega Saturn style visuals, then you have the more upgraded HD style visuals. And that's all interesting, but the cutscenes look like they're pretty much straight from the Sega Saturn. Like they didn't do any upscaling whatsoever on the cutscenes. I mean, they still have that late 1990s era charm to them, which I think is a good thing, at least for me. Probably again, the nostalgia is talking there, but I find it a bit odd that they didn't upscale it to, I don't know, it just felt like, you were watching cutscenes that were obviously designed with a CD in mind, not DVD. And I don't know, it's a bit glaring, especially when you play the brand new Dreams version of the game. It's like the visuals are a little bit jarring with, it just definitely feels like lower resolution for certain. But then again, at the same time, I don't know if I would have really liked it if they had actually upgraded the visuals as well without keeping the same art style. And maybe that's probably why they did it that way. But at the end of the day, it is an interesting decision to still keep the visuals. At least it felt like they were lower resolution. I could be wrong, and maybe they did upscale it, but it didn't feel that way because you had like the flickering on the screen and whatnot every time they played. So it felt like they were still pretty low resolution, but yeah, who knows? But at the end of the day, I probably shouldn't give it as high a score as I'm going to. And I will, like I said, I will admittedly say there is some nostalgia bias for that, but I still think it's a fun game. And the fact that you can't play it now, well, you can't legally purchase it anymore. I think that's the biggest crime here right now currently, and something that Sega really, I'm hoping they're going to address it sooner rather than later, because it's just a crime that other people can't go about purchasing this game for themselves and getting a little slice of history there, because this was, for the most part, this was the platformer, one of the main platformers it feels like, in my opinion, for the Sega Saturn, because we never really got a true Sonic platformer. Not, back in the day, I did play through Sonic R, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, and that game also was kind of short. There's a bit of a running theme here going on with the Saturn library at the time. But anyway, there was no true Sonic platforming game, though you could get compilation disc that had the old Genesis game. So that was nice, but at the same time, it's just not exactly the same thing. So this game really was kind of like the flagship title for the Sega Saturn, and it was a good title, and it definitely was one of the things that attracted me to getting a Saturn. But I think most likely, and I could be mistaken here, but I think most likely Sega's probably going to repackage this game, all the Dreamcast games and whatnot, and they're going to come out with a new collection, would be my assumption. Maybe they'll, expand on it and put some more games on it, because I can't see any reason why they would have pulled this game from the store and not replace it. That just kind of seems like an odd decision. But overall, I'm going to give this game a 90. And that's probably a little bit of a high score for it. I will freely admit that. But I think it's just such a unique style game, and a fun game. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. So actually, well, I guess I kind of apologize here. It looks like maybe we're not going to get to see that much visuals for the brand new Dreams in comparison. Maybe I'll do it really quick here. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. I'll let this go for just a little bit more here for a quick comparison purposes. And basically say, yeah, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.